On January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump inherited a mathematical impossibility. He walked into the White House and was handed a ledger that contained a single terrifying number, $38 trillion. This is the U.S. national debt. It is a number so large the human brain cannot actually comprehend it. To put it in perspective, to pay it off, every single American taxpayer would have to write a check for $1 million tomorrow morning. But the debt itself isn't even the main problem anymore. The problem is the interest on that debt. As of late 2025, the interest payments alone have crossed $2 trillion a year. We are now spending more on just the interest than we spend on the military, more than Medicare, and more than Social Security combined. The United States government is technically insolvent. It is a zombie entity kept alive only by the ability to print its own life support. In any normal world, a business with these financials would declare bankruptcy. But Donald Trump calls himself the king of debt for a reason. He knows something the academic economists don't. He knows the old banker's adage is true. When you owe the bank $1 million, you have a problem. But when you owe the bank $38 trillion, the bank has a problem. He has a plan to fix it, a secret plan that has been hidden in plain sight since the start of his 2024 campaign. It isn't austerity. He isn't going to cut your Social Security or raise your taxes. And it isn't default. He isn't going to crash the global financial system overnight. It is a reset. A radical restructuring of the global financial order. A plan that will wipe out the debt by wiping out the value of the dollar itself. The clues are already there, if you know where to look. The executive order for the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, the Tariff Rebate Checks. They look like separate policies, but they are all pieces of a single puzzle. When you put them together, they reveal a timeline that ends in 2026. The year the debt bomb goes off, and the year the American dollar changes forever. If you're holding cash, bonds, or a standard 401k, you are the target of this reset. But if you understand what the king of debt is about to do, you can position yourself on the winning side of the greatest wealth transfer in history. To understand the reset, you have to look at the first domino that fell in February 2025. President Trump signed an executive order directing the Treasury to create a United States Sovereign Wealth Fund. Most people ignored it. They thought it was just another boring political headline. They were wrong. This was the signal that the United States is moving away from capitalism as we know it. We are moving towards state capitalism. For decades, smart countries like Norway, Saudi Arabia, and China have used sovereign wealth funds. They use them to buy real assets. They buy land, gold, companies, and resources all over the world. The United States didn't do this. We just printed debt. We sold treasury bonds to the rest of the world and promised to pay them back someday. But who buys treasury bonds today? China has stopped buying. Japan is selling. The BRICS nations are actively dumping them to build their own system. The bond market, the engine of American power, is dying. Trump knows this, so he is pivoting. The Sovereign Wealth Fund allows the U.S. government to print money, but with a twist. They won't print money to pay old debts. They will print money to buy hard assets. Imagine if the Federal Reserve printed $1 trillion tomorrow. In the old system, they used it to buy government bonds, which is just buying their own debt. In the new Trump system, the Sovereign Wealth Fund uses that $1 trillion to buy things that matter. They will buy energy projects, rare earth mineral mines, next-generation AI infrastructure and data centers. Why does this matter to you? Because it radically changes the backing of the U.S. dollar. For 50 years, since 1971, the dollar was backed by nothing but the full faith and credit of the government, which basically means, trust us, we will tax our future citizens to pay you back. But if the Sovereign Wealth Fund works, the dollar starts to be backed by assets. It sounds good, right? But there is a catch. A massive hidden trap in the transition. To fund this transition, the government has to devalue the old debt. They have to make the $38 trillion in existing bonds worth less in real terms. This is the soft default. Trump isn't going to tell China, we aren't paying you. That would cause a war. He is going to pay them back in full. But he will pay them back in dollars that are worth 50% less than when they lent them. He is going to use inflation as a weapon to wipe out the national debt. And if your life savings are in those same dollars, you are collateral damage. But if you deliberately destroy the value of the dollar to pay off the debt, how do you stay a superpower? How do you prevent the US dollar from becoming the Venezuelan bolivar? You need a lifeboat. You need a new anchor for the financial system. Enter the second domino, the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. In March 2025, the executive order was signed. It directed the Department of Justice to stop selling the Bitcoin they seize from criminals. Instead, they must transfer it to the U.S. Treasury. It endorsed a plan for the U.S. government to acquire 1 million Bitcoin over 5 years. Why would a superpower buy magic internet money? Because Trump understands the game theory of money better than anyone? If the U.S. dollar is going to be devalued to pay off the debt, the world needs a reason to still trust America. By holding the world's largest stockpile of Bitcoin and gold, the U.S. creates a floor for its currency. It sends a message to the world. Our paper money might be printing to infinity, but our reserves are finite. This is the Nixon shock in reverse. In 1971, Nixon took us off the gold standard so he could print money freely. In 2026, Trump is putting us on a digital gold standard to save the system from the consequences of that printing. It's also a geopolitical weapon. If China or Russia try to launch a gold-backed currency to kill the dollar, America can say, we have more gold than you, and we have the Bitcoin. It's checkmate. But here's the secret part of the plan that no one is talking about in the mainstream media. This is the accounting trick that makes the whole reset possible. If the U.S. government owns 1 million Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes to $1 million per coin, which many analysts predict, that is a $1 trillion asset sitting on the U.S. Treasury's balance sheet. Now add gold. The U.S. still officially values its gold at $42 an ounce, a price from the 1970s. If Trump revalues gold to its real market price, say $20,000 an ounce, that instantly creates trillions of dollars of new equity on the government's books. They can use these paper profits to pay off the national debt without raising your taxes. It is the ultimate financial magic trick. But for the magic trick to work, the price of Bitcoin and gold must go up. The government needs them to skyrocket. They are no longer speculative assets for gamblers. They are now national security assets. Do you think the U.S. government will let Bitcoin crash if it holds their national savings? No, they will protect it. They will pump it via policy. This creates a unique window of opportunity for you. For the first time in history, your financial interests are aligned with the deep state. They need the same assets to go up that you do, but you have to own them before the final reset happens. So we have the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is the asset buyer, and we have the Bitcoin Reserve, which is the anchor. But how does Trump trigger the reset? What is the actual button he pushes to start the inflation? It's the tariffs. The media tells you tariffs are about protecting American jobs. That's the sales pitch for the voters. The real strategic purpose of the tariffs is to force a global currency crisis. When the U.S. puts a 20% tariff on the whole world, other countries have to devalue their own currencies just to stay competitive. China weakens the yuan. Europe weakens the euro. This creates a race to the bottom. Everyone tries to destroy their currency faster than the dollar to keep their exports cheap. And when every currency is dying globally, capital flees to safety. Where does it go? It flees to the U.S. stock market. It flees to American real estate, and it flees to Bitcoin. This creates the melt-up. A final, explosive boom in asset prices in the U.S. fueled by global panic. And this brings us to the most controversial and brilliant part of the Trump plan, the tariff checks. You've seen the headlines. Trump proposes $2,000 checks from tariff revenue. This isn't welfare. It's a political bribe. He is using the money collected from foreign nations at the ports to send cash directly to American voters before the midterms. This ensures the public supports the reset. Who is going to complain about a trade war when they get a $2,000 check in the mail every few months? But here's the trap. When you inject billions of dollars of tariff checks into the economy to stimulate demand, while simultaneously restricting supply with tariffs, you get inflation. Massive 1970s-style inflation. This is the cost of the debt reset. The debt gets paid away with devalued dollars. The assets like Bitcoin and stocks go to the moon. But the purchasing power of your paycheck gets incinerated. The government saves itself. The asset owners get rich. And the wage earner gets crushed. The timeline is set. The executive orders are signed. The mechanism is in motion. 2025 is the setup. 2026 is the execution. When the tariff checks start hitting mailboxes in 2026, the final phase of the reset begins. So how do you survive the Trump debt reset? You must position yourself on the side of the resetters, not the resetted. You need to own the specific assets that the Sovereign Wealth Fund and the Treasury are trying to pump. Here is the America First portfolio for the 2026 reset. Asset 1, Bitcoin. It is now a national security asset. The U.S. government is buying it. You should too. It is your insurance against the soft default of the dollar. Asset 2, physical gold. The central banks of the world are buying it to back their new currencies. It is the only asset with a 5,000-year track record of surviving debt resets. Asset 3, U.S. industrial stocks. This is the reshoring play. If tariffs block foreign goods, American factories win by default. Companies that build things in America, defense, energy, manufacturing, will see massive government investment from the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Asset 4, American energy. Trump's policy is drill, baby, drill. The Sovereign Wealth Fund will be heavy in oil, gas, and nuclear. Energy is the currency of the physical world. Asset 5, fixed rate debt, specifically your 30-year mortgage. This sounds counterintuitive. Why is debt an asset? Because if inflation rips higher to 10% or 15%, the real value of your debt goes down. You get to pay back the bank over 30 years with dollars that are becoming worthless. A 30-year fixed mortgage at today's rates is the best hedge against inflation you can own. The Trump reset is the most ambitious economic experiment in modern history. It is a plan to save the American empire by sacrificing the purchasing power of the American dollar. For the unprepared, 2026 will be a year of confusion, anger, and poverty. But for those who see the secret plan, it is the opportunity of a lifetime. The executive orders are public. The plan is exposed. The only question is, will you be holding the bag of worthless paper, or will you be holding the future?